I thought I was living a normal marriage. Until one day while I was cleaning, my stepson and his friend suddenly showed up at the house. They silence as I bent over to wipe down the big white couches. The door suddenly slammed open. I jumped for a second, still hearing the vacuum running, so I couldn't immediately see who it was. When I turned my head, I saw my stepson Adrian and his friend, who was dark-skinned and athletic, standing in the doorway. Adrian, my 19-year-old stepson, looked nothing like his father, unlike his dad's strict demeanor. Adrian's young face always had a touch of mischief. His hair was dark brown and his skin looked tanned, like it had been kissed by the sun. His friend was similar, dressed a little sloppy but exuding that carefree vibe that came with youth. Mom, Adrian's voice was a little surprised but filled with a soft smile. What are you doing here at this time? Adrian's voice snapped me back to reality, and without realizing it, I turned off the vacuum and stood up. The strap of my tank top had slipped off my shoulder, and as I noticed, I quickly tried to adjust it, but when I felt his friend's gaze on me, I suddenly got a little embarrassed. I could feel my cheeks burning. I was just cleaning, I said, trying to hide the surprise in my voice. Why are you guys here so early? Aren't you supposed to be at school? Adrian ran a hand through his hair, laughing casually. We left early today, wanted to hang out with Tom, but I didn't expect to catch you like this. Tom, Adrian's friend, stepped forward a little, giving me a faint smile as his eyes quickly scanned me. I felt a bit uneasy, but at the same time, that look wrapped around me like a strange curiosity. Adrian's position next to him was more innocent, but the depth in Tom's gaze, like there were things unseen, made me feel a little uncomfortable. Adrian shrugged and said, with a casual tone as if it was nothing, I knew I'd find you cleaning when I got home, but I didn't expect you to look this good, he said, his eyes sparkling with a playful gleam. Tom, while taking off his shoes, interjected with a surprised smile, Adrian, is your mom really 42? He asked, raising his eyebrows. In the brief silence, I heard Adrian chuckle lightly. Yeah, Tom, why does she look old to you? Tom, his eyes roaming over me, quickly replied, definitely not. You look so young and really attractive. His voice carried a sincere and soft warmth. At that moment, I noticed the thin fabric of my top and the leggings accentuating my body's curves. With a slight shy shrug of my shoulder, I said, thanks, with an involuntary smile forming on my face. Adrian and Tom went to the living room and turned on the PlayStation, lounging on the couch as they got lost in the game. I saw this as an opportunity to tidy up the rest of the living room. I grabbed my dust rag and started cleaning around the TV while wiping the sides of the television. I glanced out of the corner of my eye and realized Adrian and Tom were watching me. Both of them seemed to have stopped playing the game, quietly observing me. At first I felt a bit uncomfortable, but somewhere deep inside, I couldn't deny that I liked the attention. I suddenly felt younger, more attractive, but not wanting to dwell on it too much. I pulled myself together and went to the kitchen. After a while, Adrian came to the kitchen under the pretense of wanting coffee. Can you make us iced coffee? He asked, his eyes innocent. At that moment, I had climbed up on a chair to clean the inside of the kitchen cabinets, and I was leaning forward. I looked up and answered, of course, I'll make it right away. But I couldn't help but notice Adrian's gaze lingering on me. The depth and meaning in his eyes made my heart race for a moment. I made the coffee and returned to the living room. Adrian and Tom were still playing their game. I handed them their iced coffees and sat down next to them, feeling a warmth in being close to them. Tom, chatty as usual, started talking about strategies in the game, and Adrian joined in. However, Tom's phone rang and his family was calling. "I have to go," he said quickly. Standing up, Adrian shrugged lightly. "No worries, you'll come by again later," he said after Tom left in a hurry. The living room fell into a silence, leaving just Adrian and me. The sound of the game console hummed softly in the background as Adrian turned to me with a slight smile. "You've got a different kind of energy today," he said, his voice warm and unmistakable. Focused in that moment, I felt the atmosphere shift, like the air in the room had grown heavier. Somehow Adrian broke the silence with a deep breath, his face carrying a playful grin. "It's probably for the best that Tom left," he said, his eyes locked on mine, not wavering for even a second. "I've been wanting to spend some time alone with you since you married my dad, but the chance never really came up." His words caught me completely off guard. I realized I was gripping my coffee mug a little too tightly. I couldn't quite grasp what he was trying to say, or maybe I didn't want to. My eyes met his for a moment, but then I quickly looked away. "Why would you want something like that?" I asked, my voice tinged with nervousness. Adrian shrugged lightly, leaning a bit closer on the couch. His expression had shifted to something more serious, and combined with his confident posture, it left me momentarily breath. "Because I know my dad doesn't make you happy," he said. "When I look at you, it's like you're searching for something else, like you're not getting the attention you deserve." My heart started pounding in my chest. Hearing those words felt both mortifying and incredibly tempting. I didn't want Adrian to notice how flustered I was, but the slight heat rising to my cheeks betrayed me. "Adrian, you shouldn't be saying things like that," I managed to reply, my voice trembling slightly. But as I looked at him, I couldn't deny the flicker of excitement that his forbidden words ignited within me. Adrian stayed quiet for a moment, his eyes locked onto mine. "You're right," he said slowly, his voice dropping to a deeper tone. "Maybe I shouldn't, but it's the truth, and I felt like I had to say it." The space between us had almost completely disappeared. He was so close now that I could feel his breath. He set his coffee mug aside and leaned in toward me. "This coffee is really good," he said, his voice carrying a warmth that made me feel completely defenseless. Then, after a brief pause, he gently pressed his lips to my cheek. A wave of shock mixed with warmth spread through my entire body. I couldn't move. No, I didn't move, even if I wanted to. The magic of the moment had me completely frozen. Adrian didn't pull back, his eyes stayed locked on mine. When his lips moved toward me again, I couldn't summon the strength to stop him. I didn't resist. I kissed him back softly yet deeply. Time felt like it had stopped on the edge of something forbidden. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and intense excitement. Adrien's warmth, his closeness, and his sincerity pulled me into a complexity I'd never felt before. Yet deep down, a voice inside reminded me this wasn't right. When our lips finally parted, I was out of breath and my thoughts were completely scrambled. "Adrian, this," I began, but the words died in my throat. He gently interrupted, saying, "I know." His voice was calm but firm. "But I can't hide how I feel, and I think you feel something for me too." His words terrified me, but they also drew me in like a magnet. I couldn't resist. I dropped my gaze to the floor, hoping the chaos in my mind would somehow untangle itself, but at the same time Adrien's presence was breaking through every boundary, every rational thought I had. Adrian stepped back slightly and took a deep breath. There was a look of determination in his eyes. Suddenly he straightened up and moved closer again, step by step watching every little movement I made. His hand rested on my waist, soft but assertive, like he was testing every boundary I had left. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My heart raced wildly in my chest when our eyes locked. Again, the intensity of the moment was impossible to ignore. Adrian pulled me just a little closer, and this time his lips met mine with a deeper, more passionate kiss than before. My body responded to his warmth, and every sound, every thought in my mind faded away as my mind grew hazier. I found myself giving in to him, but then everything shifted so quickly. It was like the room spun around me, leaving me disoriented before I even realized it. I was sitting there in the same clothes I'd been cleaning in earlier, on the couch where it all happened. My mind raced to process what had just occurred, questioning every second. Adrienne's warmth still lingered on my skin, but the storm of emotions inside me was impossible to ignore. My thoughts spiraled. What had really happened? How much of it was real? And most importantly, when my husband got home, would anything ever go back to how it was before? How could we find our way back to normal? I quickly got up and headed for the shower. The hot water stung my skin as I tried to wash away the confusion clouding my mind, but deep down something inside me felt like it was about to shatter. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about what this meant, about the price I'd have to pay for it all.